Okay, so let's talk about how to create the navigation. You might be a little further along than I am, or you might be a little further behind than I am, but that's okay. As long as you have your nav section, and then I've created a list in here with each of the names of the buttons I want to create, and each of those are linked to their respective pages. Now, if you don't have those pages created, that's okay. Just name them what you think you would name them, and make sure that when you create those pages that they're the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and look at the source code for this. I have a nav tag, and inside of it I have an unordered list, and each list item has a link to its respective page. I didn't add any IDs, I just kept it simple. If I had two different forms of navigation on my page, like a main navigation and a sub navigation, it'd be really important for me to put an ID equals main navigation or main nav, and then my sub navigation would have an ID of sub nav, so that my rules for one don't affect the other. So let's go back to the design view and let's talk about how this is styled so far. If I look at all the styles in my CSS, I have my nav that's inside of the wrapper div. It is styled with a background color, and I just set a garish color for right now. And actually it shouldn't have any of these box shadows, so I must have accidentally done that. So right now it just has a color, and that's fine. So the first thing we want to style is the actual unordered list. So I'm going to click inside of the list and hit the plus sign, and I'm going to get rid of this A and this LI, so it should be wrapper nav UL. And remember, the wrapper has a hashtag because I'm referring to an ID and not a regular generic tag like I am here in nav. So what I want to do for this one is basically center it. So I'll go to text and choose text align center, and that's going to make sure that my navigation sits in the center of the actual section. So I will probably come back to this to add some padding on the top and bottom to make sure my buttons sit right, but for right now let's add another rule, and this one specifically for the LI. So for the list item, what we want to do is we want to force it to sit or display as an inline element. So if I go up to the layout, display, I'm going to click here and choose inline, because remember, it's a block level element, so it wants to stack one on top of each other. But if you choose inline, it's going to sit to the left or right of each other. Now I can also come here to the background and give this a garish background color of red, just so you can kind of see what's happening here. Now we will also come back to this rule to add some margin on the right to push the buttons away from each other, but let's just keep going with these rules. So I'll click the plus sign again. I have my selector inside of one of these links. I'll click the plus sign to add another rule, and this time it's for the A tag, in the LI, in the UL, in the nav, in the wrapper. So we're kind of seeing that cascade or the specific order. So from here we want to give it a little bit more space. So I'm going to go to my padding area, and I'm going to add 5 padding on the top, 20 on the right, 5 on the bottom, and 20 on the left. So as we're looking here, we can see, well, it doesn't look like anything's happening right now, but if I go to live view, see how I added some space on the left and some space on the right? So that is kind of what we want to have happen. So I can go back to this UL, and I can add some padding on the top of 5 and padding on the bottom of 5 to kind of give it more space. So we'll go back to this A. We have 20 pixels on the left, 20 pixels on the right, and 5 pixels on the top and bottom. So if we come in here and change the background color, let's do a green, you're really going to see this change. See how different it looks than the red that we were seeing for the LI? So this is where we had the 20 pixels on the left, 20 pixels on the right, and the 5 on top and the 5 on bottom. So it's making it look like chunkier blocks. So you can change those paddings or the padding settings however you want. So let's go ahead and take the text decoration off. That's the underline that comes with the link. So I can click this none, and it goes away. It doesn't look like it goes away, but if I go to live, you'll see that it's actually gone. So let me click out of live and go back up here. And the last thing we need to do is we need to add a hover functionality. So what happens when somebody rolls over it? So we can click the plus sign, and at the end of the A, type :hover. So with that hover property ready, we can go down to the background color, and let's do a light blue so it's kind of easy to see what happens. So if we go to live and hover over, see how it's turning like light blue? And remember, don't depend on the live view from Dreamweaver. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So make sure you preview things in the browser just to make sure. So what I need to do now is actually take all the color out. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the UL and make sure it doesn't have any color in it, and it doesn't. And I'm going to go to the nav, and I'm going to change that color with the color picker to my dark brown 38170C. And for the A tag, I actually don't want a background color. I could have had a background color, but I do want the text color to be white because it's going to be sitting on that dark brown. So I'll go to the text color and choose white, or I could have chose this creamy color here, and go back to the LI to get rid of that red color. So let's throw that away. And another thing with the LI, we can go up to this layout and we can add some margin on the left and right. So if I push it to the 15 pixels to the right, they kind of sit away from each other. And then the hover, I actually want it to be sort of this creamy color, or maybe a little bit darker. And I'm going to have to change the text because when I roll over it, well, the white doesn't look bad on that, but I can change it to dark brown. So I can, in this hover, go to text, change the color to the dark brown. So where is the color? Okay. I'm always looking elsewhere for things. Okay. So let's preview this in the browser, and let's make sure I click in here first and then preview it in the browser. It says it needs to be saved. That's okay. So now when I hover over, we see the rollover functionality. Everything is spaced out, and that's how you create navigation with CSS and lists.